It's my pole class and I'll cry if I want to, cry if I want to, cry if I want to. You would cry too if your thighs got so bruised. Hello, I'm Kelsey from Kelsey's Pole Journey, and I'm a big old crybaby. Baby? I'm a big old crybaby, and that's okay. Okay, no, I'm not crying every single second of every day or bursting into tears during a nice lunch, but sometimes I cry out of frustration or pain or because I feel a buildup of emotion I just need to get out. But what does this have to do with pole class? A few of you have shared with me that you took your first pole class and you slipped off the pole the entire time, or you weren't prepared for how badly it hurt, or you weren't able to get the moves that everyone else was doing, and honestly, you could be reading from my own personal log of pole classes because that's exactly how it was for me during most of my in-person classes. And not that much has changed with me having my pole in my own home. So today I just want to talk about the phenomenon of crying after pole class, or any fitness class really, because it's something you shouldn't feel bad about. You may be crying because you've never felt pain like this and it hurts a lot. Maybe this is the first time you've taken a group fitness class since the pandemic started and you are elated and overwhelmed and a little bit nervous. Maybe your body is finally capable of pushing itself to do something you've always wanted it to do and you're overjoyed. Or maybe your body isn't performing at the level that you're used to and you're grieving. Maybe the sight of yourself in the mirror triggers negative feelings about your appearance, or maybe those feelings are positive and you can't believe you finally feel that way about yourself. Maybe you're frustrated because you can't keep up with the rest of the class, or you're anxious because the music is too loud. Fitness of any kind is super involved, and the aerial arts in particular are some of the most specified, difficult, intense forms of physical fitness you could choose to engage in. Emotions, including crying, are normal. You are normal. Caveat: if someone is making you cry, that's not normal or okay. If someone is mocking you, belittling you, commenting on your body in a way that you don't like, etc., and that's making you cry, even if it's an instructor, even if it's a classmate, then there's a problem, and you are within your rights to tell the person to leave you alone, or in the case of an instructor, to contact the studio and let them know what's going on. But I'm talking about just any other case where you feel like you need to cry after pole class. I'm going to show you a clip that I recorded after one particularly intense in-person pole class because I was fed up with feeling like I was the only person in the world who felt like garbage at the studio. You'll see that I'm talking about social media during the video, but the main thing that I want you to get here is just how upset I was because of the feelings that arose during class. You can skip ahead to this time if you don't want to see the video of me crying, and don't worry, there won't be any more clips of me crying in the rest of this video. I just want to talk for a second about the endless social media highlight reel that we show of our lives. I know I'm always I'm having so much fun. Here I am being goofy doing a trick in circus class. But you want to know what I did tonight in pole class? Nothing. I did nothing. I barely got on the pole because I was my hands were slipping. I was frustrated. I was scared and sad, and what makes the pole 1,000 times more slippery is just panic. And what makes your legs so much heavier is body dysmorphia. So I just wanted to say that, despite what people present themselves as on social media, as having a great time constantly, or look at this cool thing I did, just know that 9 times out of 10 I feel like this when I leave an aerial class, rather than, here's my cool new thing. So that's all I wanted to say. Okay, let's just take a collective moment to collect ourselves, because I know that that video was pretty intense, and honestly it's my constant inclination to just scrub it off of my social media because it's cringe to put out a video like that, and it's not on brand with my fun and goofy self, and it's embarrassing, isn't it? Except it isn't. You've heard me talk at length by now about how hard pole is, but it is really hard. It's physically brutal and mentally exhausting. It's a combination of some really hard workout moves, plus flexibility, plus dance, plus figuring out what the hell sexiness looks like to you, and if you even want to imbue sexiness in your pole practice, plus reckoning with your nearly naked body, plus fighting off comparisons between yourself and all the other people around you, plus the pressure of social media stars only sharing their highlights and feeling like you're never going to measure up to them. And man, putting it all out there like that is making me want to cry. For every uber successful day that I have on the pole, either here at home or back when I used to take studio classes, I have 2 or 3 that are messy, super painful, nowhere near perfect or even good. I can't get any of the moves I'm trying, I don't get any usable footage for my videos, my body feels impossible to lift, you name it, and here come the waterworks. So here are the two things I really want to get across in this video. Crying is fine, and there are productive ways to do it, and there is no such thing as a bad pole session or a bad fitness session. First, let's talk about healthy ways to work through your emotions. And we'll start with, how do you prevent feeling this way? It's not always possible, but these tips might help protect you against the buildup of feelings that leads to you wanting to cry. Try to get a moment alone with your instructor, either before your very first class or at some point early on in your semester. Make sure they know your name and establish a little connection with them. It could be something as simple as, I like your tattoos, or just telling them that this is your first pole class ever, but having that rapport with your instructor will automatically make you feel safer and more comfortable in their studio, because you can look over at them when you're struggling and remember that conversation you had and that connection you made. If you're not getting along with your instructor, pick a classmate who looks nice, or you also have my permission to picture me there, sitting at the next pole over, cheering you on.
Talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular.
Next, find some inspiration that makes you feel good. This is more of a general life outside of class tip, but honestly, if your social media is loaded up with pole dancers who never make a single mistake, and you will show up to class and you're slipping off the pole the whole time, you're gonna feel extra shitty about yourself. We are all guilty of posting only our best content online, making it seem like we are great or perfect every time. And though we know that's not the truth, our brains don't always know it, you know? Try to find a source of inspiration who shares their whole journey, including the highs and the lows, so when you're experiencing a low yourself, you don't feel so ostracized. Or give yourself a little social media hiatus the day before your pole class, so those picture-perfect pullers are not at the top of your brain when it's your turn. Next tip, take a break. I mentioned this in a previous video, but you should never ever be made to feel guilty when taking a break in a pole class or any other kind of fitness class. If your instructor tries to punish you or make an example out of you for taking a breather, they are not qualified to be an instructor of fitness, plain and simple. And if your internal monologue is the one trying to shame you for taking a break, remind it that you're busting your ass doing what is arguably the hardest aerial sport, so you can have 30 seconds alone with your water bottle, okay? Often, when I'd work myself up into the worst mental state during class, it was because I didn't allow myself to take a break. I'd throw myself into the same move again and again, getting worse each time because my muscles were so fatigued and my skin was so bruised. But I just, wanted to get it. I needed to get it. The pole is gonna be there next time and you can always try it again. And here's a tip from my second video ever. So for the hundreds of you who've shown up since then, I'm gonna reiterate it here. I just started choking on my own spit, but now it looks like I'm crying. That's perfect timing. Force yourself to thank your body and your pole at the end of each session. It doesn't have to be out loud unless you're comfortable with that or in a private space, but thoughts and words do shape our feelings, and offering gratitude even at the end of a really brutal pole session helps me reframe it in my mind. If the emotions overwhelm you despite these safeguards, let them out. You may have to excuse yourself from class a few minutes early unless you can wait until class is over. Then get yourself to a nice, safe, private place and just let the emotions come out. I find that it helps me sometimes to verbalize the emotion, like, I am angry because my hands are slippery, because that gives it a name instead of allowing myself to just sit in vague, nebulous badness, I often find that if I'm at the point where tears want to come out, it means that they're riding on the wave of a lot of other bottled up emotions. So I will really let them come out. I do this thing where I queue up a few of the saddest Glee songs, or Without You from Rent, or videos of people getting puppies after they lost their old dogs or something, and I just have myself a solid, good cry. And by the end, I feel like I've been reborn. I highly recommend showering immediately after pole class anyway, because yikes, germs. But if you've just been crying, it can feel especially good to get into a warm shower and just let it all flow away. Visualize all the negative emotions swirling down the drain, and be sure to get yourself a big drink of water when you're done crying and showering. Maybe this all makes me sound like a really big, crunchy granola hippie being like, hey man, just let your emotions flow. But the more you bottle them all up, the worse of a time you're gonna have every time you go back onto the pole, and I want your pole time to be something that feels good for you. How about if someone else starts crying during the middle of class? Usually the instructor will pull them aside to have a quiet personal moment while everyone else does some conditioning or something. If you are in the group doing conditioning, do your best to just keep to your activity, don't stare at the crying person, and don't get together with the others and whisper about them. I don't think I need to tell you not to act like a gossipy middle schooler. But having been the person who's like having the breakdown, even just seeing people whisper, you could be whispering about your dinner or something, but you still think that it's all about you and how weird you are for breaking down in a public place. And if, heaven forbid, the instructor does not go check on the person who's having the breakdown in their class, if you have the emotional space, you can be the person who checks in on them. Or to simply offer them a smile or a compliment. And people are different. When I'm crying, I like to be left completely alone, so a bunch of people coming up to me and patting me on the back would probably not be something that I liked. But just having another human being acknowledge that you are in pain goes a long way. And now, let me tell you something that I really hope sticks around in your brain. There is no such thing as a bad workout, a bad trip to the gym, or a bad pole session. Maybe you intended to do Zumba for an hour, but instead you just went for a walk. Maybe you laced up your shoes and headed on over to the squat rack, but it was full, so you just did a few half-hearted lunges and then went home. Maybe you attempted to get the extended butterfly and only succeeded at doing a chair spin in your pole class. Maybe, just maybe, you made it to class and you didn't manage to do anything other than just stand around in your underwear and stare at your pole. Which I have done. You know what? That's still something to be proud of. One of you commented recently that all you were able to do during your very first pole class was climb the pole a little bit and sit because your hands were so slippery, and to that I have to say, all? What do you mean? Those are two huge accomplishments. Even if you didn't accomplish anything, you still showed up to your first pole class, and for that I am so proud of you. Any progress is progress. Each time you slide off the pole, or lift a lighter weight than you think you should, or stand at the back of your belly dancing class when you feel like you ought to be up at the front, you are building yourself a foundation to be better the next time. Your hands need to build up calluses. Your muscles need to grow. Your confidence needs to be watered in order to blossom. This has become an interpretive dance. And yes, it is extremely hippy-dippy, but that doesn't make it any less true. Okay, I'm done. I'm wrapping it up. Nobody even asked for this video, but I felt like it's just something that needed to be said. Sorry if the earnestness here is so saccharine that now your teeth hurt. But I just feel like we don't acknowledge how common and normal it is to end up crying after a pole class. Pole is more than just posting our pretty moves online and receiving unwanted comments from male strangers. I mean, and drowning in the likes and subscribes. It's also about extremely hard work, and some of that might come out in sweat or bruises or tears. Okay, I'm really gonna wrap up now because being this serious for so long has thrown my funny bone out of whack. I didn't even include a single SpongeBob reference, unless I include one right now in editing. If you liked this video, feel free to comment and subscribe, and remember, seriously, I am proud of you. Bye!